48 hours inside Rikers Island, when everything changes fast. They say Rikers Island doesn't change you slowly. It changes you instantly. 1 minute, you're standing under the cold fluorescent lights of the intake cell, and the next, the steel door slams shut behind you, echoing like a verdict you'll never forget. At Rikers, people don't survive because they're strong. They survive because they learn fast. Fights don't build up, they explode. Alliances don't form, they calcify. And enemies? You don't make them over time. You make them the second someone decides you look weak. This is the story of Malik Torres, a 22-year-old who thought he was just spending 48 hours at Rikers before his court hearing. But inside this place, 48 hours is long enough for your entire world to collapse. Long enough for truths to unravel. Long enough for people to disappear. And long enough for Malik to realize that nobody, not even the guards, could be trusted. By the time he walked out, nothing in his life would ever be the same. Intake. The line of the forgotten. The first thing Malik noticed wasn't the smell, though it hit him hard. A mix of bleach, sweat, and something sour lurking underneath. It wasn't the yelling from distant corridors, either. It was the faces. Dozens of men, slumped along the benches, eyes vacant, like they'd left their souls somewhere behind the Queen's shoreline the moment the bus crossed that narrow bridge. Intake at Rikers Island is a place where time doesn't pass. It drags. It suffocates. Malik sat between a man shaking uncontrollably and another who kept whispering to himself, "Don't sleep. Don't sleep. Don't sleep." Every few minutes, officers would shout a name. The lucky ones stood up. The unlucky ones weren't fully conscious. When Malik's name was finally called, an officer with a scar down his cheek grabbed him by the wrist. "Torres, you'll learn quick," he muttered without looking at him. "Keep your head down. Don't ask nobody for nothing. And if you hear running, you run too." Malik nodded, though he didn't understand. But he would. He was searched, stripped, and handed clothes stiff enough to stand on their own. The fabric still held the warmth and fear of whoever wore them last. That was his first lesson in Rikers. Nothing here truly belongs to you, not even the clothes on your back. The bus to Mod 3, welcome to the machine. They told Malik he'd be placed in Mod 3, a housing unit known for high tension, which was officer speak for, "This pod will eat you alive if you slip once." The doors of the transfer bus clanged shut. The windows were scratched so deeply he could barely see outside. But he didn't need to. The sound of Rikers was enough. Muffled screams, metal clashing, a distant alarm that no one seemed in a hurry to answer. A man chained beside him leaned over. He had tattoos crawling up his neck, and eyes that looked too calm for a place like this. "You knew?" he asked. Malik nodded. "You got 48 hours?" "Yeah." The man laughed under his breath. "Time moves different here. 48 hours can turn into forever." Malik didn't know what he meant, but again he would. When the bus stopped, several officers waited with batons resting casually on their belts, as if daring someone to get brave. One of them scanned the group. "Mod 3, step off. Keep your hands where I can see them." Malik stepped off the bus and into a world where the rules were made by whoever had the most to lose. First encounter, the silent check-in. The walk to Mod 3 was long and narrow, a tunnel lined with thick glass windows. Behind those windows, Malik could see the other housing units. In one, 2 inmates were fist-fighting while a guard watched from a distance, not even reaching for his radio. In another, a group huddled around a man curled on the floor, motionless. Malik swallowed. Every step felt heavier. At the entrance to Mod 3, a correction officer tapped a clipboard. "Name." Malik, "Torres." She checked the paper, then looked at him. Really looked at him. "You're young. That's a problem here." Malik's breath hitched. "Why?" "Because the wolves in this unit, they like their prey young." She opened the door. The noise hit him first, a constant hum of arguments, TVs blaring, and beds trembling from restless movement. The second thing was a smell, stronger than intake, layered with old sweat and cleaning chemicals that didn't do their job. And the third, the eyes. Dozens of inmates studying him, sizing him up, deciding whether he was useful, harmless, or worth breaking. Rikers didn't offer a warm welcome. It offered a warning, and Malik just stepped right into it. The bunk assignment. You sleep where they let you. A guard pointed to a metal bed frame in the corner. Bottom bunk. No mattress cover. Just exposed springs and a thin, stained pad. That's you, the guard said, already walking away. Malik set his issued blanket down. It was damp. Seconds later, a large man with braided hair approached him. You in my spot, he said, voice calm but cold. Malik froze. The officer, he pointed. I know what he pointed at. The man said, but that's mine. You see this? He tapped the wall behind the bed, where 3 names were scratched in deep letters. I've been here the longest. That means the bunk is mine. Malik didn't move. He didn't argue. He just stepped back. And that's when the man's expression changed, barely, but enough. You learn quick, he said. Good. That'll keep you alive. The man pointed to another bunk. Top bed, right under a flickering light. No one wants that one. You should be safe there, unless the light drives you crazy. It did, but Malik didn't complain. In Rikers, even your suffering is borrowed. First night, the noise that doesn't let you sleep. Night in Mod 3 wasn't dark. The overhead light stayed on, buzzing like angry insects. The unit never went silent, either. There were always voices, threats, laughter sharp enough to cut concrete, and the occasional scream from a different part of the building. Malik lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Every few minutes, someone walked past his bunk. Some stared, some whispered to each other. Some simply paused long enough to let him know. We see you. At 3 a.m., a fight broke out 2 beds over. A man was thrown to the floor. His head hit the edge of a metal locker, hard enough that Malik heard the crack. The guards didn't show up. The inmates didn't stop. And the man didn't get back up. Malik just closed his eyes and prayed that morning would come. But inside Rikers, morning doesn't bring safety. It brings new problems. And on his second day, his last scheduled 24 hours, Malik would face the one that changed everything. Morning tension. Breakfast with wolves. By sunrise, though the sun never truly reached inside Mod 3, the unit was already shifting into chaos mode. Breakfast came in through a slot in the door. Gray trays stacked with cold oatmeal, a bruised apple, and something that was supposed to be bread. When Malik approached the line, a few inmates watched him too closely. A tall guy with gold caps on his teeth stepped in front of Malik and slapped the tray out of his hands. Rule 1, he said without blinking. You don't move before I move. Malik clenched his jaw, but he didn't react. He remembered the officer's warning. Don't ask nobody for nothing. He quietly bent down to pick up his tray. But before he could grab it, the tall inmate stomped on it and smeared the oatmeal across the floor. You ain't listening, he said, stepping closer. I said, you don't move before. Then a voice cut through the unit. Firm, slow, controlled. That's enough. The gold-capped inmate froze. From a far table, the man with the braided hair, the one who claimed the bunk, lifted his gaze. You bothering my bunkie for no reason? He asked. Malik felt the entire unit shift. All eyes bounced between the 2 men like spectators at a dangerous game. The gold-capped inmate raised his chin. You vouching for him now? Braids didn't stand. He didn't raise his voice. He just stared. And the gold-capped inmate backed away, slowly, before mumbling. Man, whatever. Malik stood frozen as Braids motioned him over. You eat here from now on, he said. Not because I like you. Because you didn't fold last night. That's rare in this place. Malik sat down, heart pounding. And for the first time since entering Rikers, he realized something important. He wasn't invisible here. And that could be good, or very, very dangerous. The playroom code. You don't stand in the wrong spot. After breakfast, the inmates were released into the common space, a narrow area with mismatched chairs, a single malfunctioning TV, and a set of phones along the back wall. Malik walked cautiously. Every inch of this room held unspoken rules. There were invisible borders. Corners you couldn't stand in, tables you couldn't sit at, phones you couldn't use unless someone allowed it. One wrong move could spark a riot. Malik gravitated toward an empty corner, but Braids called out, "Not there. That's the Dice Boys' table. They come late." He pointed to another area. "Stand there. By the window. That's neutral ground. You safe there." Safe. At Rikers, the word didn't mean what it meant outside. Safe meant no one would attack you immediately. As Malik stood near the window, he noticed something outside. A group of officers escorting an inmate with his hands cupped behind him and a spit hood over his face. The inmate's legs buckled. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Another inmate in Mod 3 laughed. "New fish from Mod 5. I heard he snapped last night. Tried to hang himself with a bedsheet." The unit erupted with commentary. Jeers, jokes, dark humor that had lost all humanity. But Braids didn't laugh. He just said, quietly, "This place don't kill you fast. It kills you slow." Malik didn't respond. He was starting to understand. The phone call that changes everything. By noon, Malik finally gathered the courage to approach the phones. He needed to call his mom. He needed to hear a familiar voice, something to remind him he still existed outside these walls. The phones were rusty, sticky, and each smelled like a dozen different breaths. But they were the only connection to the outside. As Malik reached for an open phone, someone grabbed his wrist. "Not that one," Braid said. "That's King's line." Malik turned. "King!" Braids pointed to a muscular man sitting by the benches, tattoos running across his scalp, eyes like empty shells. "Him. That's King. He runs half this unit. He decides who breathes easy and who doesn't." Malik swallowed. "Which one can I use?" Braids nodded toward the far end. "The broken one. Sometimes it works if you hit the button hard enough." Malik did, and miraculously, the dial tone buzzed. He dialed home. His mother answered on the third ring. "Malik? Malik, baby, are you okay?" Her voice cracked. She'd been crying. Malik swallowed the lump in his throat. "Yeah, Ma. I'm fine. I'll be out tomorrow. It's just 48 hours. There was silence on the other end. Then she whispered, No. Malik, your lawyer called me this morning. They're not letting you out tomorrow." Malik froze. "What? Why not?" "The prosecutor." He filed a motion. "They want to hold you until your next hearing. They said something about a safety concern." I don't understand." Malik's knees felt weak. 48 hours just became indefinite. And on Rikers Island, indefinite might as well mean forever. He didn't speak. He couldn't. And that's when a voice behind him said, "You good, Bunky?" It was Braids. Malik slowly lowered the phone, his chest tightening. "No," he whispered. "Everything just changed. King takes notice. The wrong eyes on you. News travel fast inside Mod 3. Too fast." Within minutes, King, the inmate who ran the unit, walked over to Malik. He didn't speak at first. He just stared at Malik like he was an object, not a person. Then King said, "You crying on the phone? That ain't a good look here." Malik clenched his jaw. "I wasn't crying." King smirked. "You will. Everybody does." He stepped closer. "You're new, and now you're stuck here longer than 48 hours. That means you're going to need protection. My protection." Malik didn't like the sound of that. Protection for what? King leaned in. "For what's coming your way. This unit's been quiet for too long. Something's going to break soon. And if you ain't standing behind somebody, you're the one getting broken." He tapped Malik's chest twice, slow and deliberate. "You think on that." Then he walked away. Braids watched from a distance, expression unreadable. And Malik realized the truth. He wasn't just trying to survive 48 hours anymore. He was stepping into a war he didn't understand. And both sides wanted him. Final hours, the 48-hour turning point. As the second night approached, Malik's world had transformed entirely. The 48 hours, he thought, he could survive had stretched into a nightmare of alliances, threats, and the ever-present tension of steel doors slamming shut. He'd seen men he thought were untouchable brought to their knees. He'd learned that silence could save you and betray you at the same time. And he discovered that protection in Rikers isn't a shield. It's a claim on your life. The last few hours were a blur of counting steps, dodging confrontations, and watching every move in the unit like a hawk. Malik realized something crucial. It wasn't strength that kept people alive in Rikers. It was awareness, timing, and knowing when to bend without breaking. As the clock ticked closer to his scheduled release, or what he thought was release, King approached him one final time. "You made it through your first 48, he said, eyes cold but respectful. "Some don't last a night. You lasted 2 days and kept your head. That's rare here." Malik nodded silently, knowing the words were as much a warning as a compliment. When the doors finally opened to release him, Malik stepped into the sunlight. The air outside never felt sweeter. But nothing could erase the images of Mod 3. The fights, the fear, the faces, and the screams. He had survived, but he wasn't the same. Everything changes fast. Rikers Island isn't just a jail. It's a crucible, a place where 48 hours can feel like 48 years, and where every decision, every glance, every word can mean the difference between life and something much worse. For Malik Torres, those 48 hours changed everything. They stripped away innocence, exposed the raw truth of human nature, and left scars that no sunlight could heal. And yet, he walked out alive. He walked out wiser. He walked out knowing one brutal truth. Inside Rikers Island, nothing is permanent, except fear, and the lessons it leaves behind. So next time you hear someone say, "It's just a few days in jail," remember Malik's story. Because inside Rikers, everything changes fast, and sometimes forever.